Okay, I guess it's time to start. Excuse me for my voice, y'all. I call this meeting of the Devine Independent School District Board of Trustees to order at 6:32. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present and that this meeting has been called and notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code Chapter 551. Let the record show that trustees Carrie James, Carl Brown, Henry Moreno, and Nancy Pepper are present. First thing we have, citizens communication.
I don't think so, right?
Okay. So the first item of business is to consider and take possible action to approve revisions and the guaranteed maximum price for district-wide improvements as part of the 2023 bond program. Dr. Grandjean.
All right. So if you remember when we engaged Weaver and Jacobs, signed a contract, the initial engagement contract, the fee schedule was not in the paperwork. Neither they caught on to it, any of our people caught on to it. So after that, we went to approve our GMP, guaranteed maximum price, the amendment. We approved that 2 meetings ago, I believe, and without the fee schedule in there. The fee schedule has never changed. It's still the same 5% for Weaver and Jacobs and the 7% for design that we talked about. But within the last 10 days, we went back through, put the fee schedule in all the documents that we have. So we need to re-approve the revised GMP amendment to account for the design fees and to move away from the construction section. And all we're doing by that is to make the accounting easier. The design fees are not underneath the construction column. And it makes for an ease of tracking, especially on our end, to make sure that, not that we think anything will be hidden or that we're worried about anything, it just makes it a much cleaner look, is what Casey is recommending for us.
Okay, and I did not read that whole contract, so
No,
I'm depending on you to have it right.
Because our attorney has been going back and forth with a fine-tooth comb for 10 days, 11 days. We're confident that we have it right.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Dr. Grandjean on that? Okay, could I have a motion then, please?
Still reading that one. Madam President, I move to approve the guaranteed maximum price amendment for the 2023 bond project district-wide improvements presented by Weavers and Jacobs Constructors Incorporated, and authorize the superintendent to negotiate and execute the final amendment with the contractor in a form approved by the district's attorney.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Carl and a second by Carrie to approve the amendment to the contract. All in favor, raise your right hand. Passes 5-0. Consider and take possible action to approve creating a new director of child nutrition position. Dr. Grandjean.
Yes, ma'am. As you know, through a recommendation from Ms. Ramirez, we've been working through the procedures to change from a food service contract provider to taking on the food service and child nutrition ourselves. She put together over the last year some really great numbers. We think that we'll be able to serve the kiddos in a way that food might be a little bit better, because we get to determine, still within the guidelines of Texas Department of Ag. In doing so, we have to have a director of child nutrition, and we want to post for that. But since it doesn't currently exist and it would be in addition to our salary tables, we're asking that you approve that position title for us.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
And it will fall somewhere in the, like admin too. Were y'all okay?
Yeah, I was going to ask how many days on the contract and all that.
They are, what, 240?
We were thinking 226, which would be 216, and it would be either pay grade 1 or 2 on professional.
Okay. Anybody else have questions? Okay, could I have a motion, please?
Madam President, I move to approve creating a new Director of Child Nutrition position as presented.
Okay, Henry, thank you. I have a motion by Carrie and a second by Henry. All in favor, raise your right hand. All right, thank you. Next, our budget workshop. Here we go.
Yay! Get ready to put you on the road. So that one, remember which one it is. Oh, there we go. Great. Wait. Oh, here. All right, here we go. Talking about 25, 26. First thing is, remember, we are in a session. The last day of the session is June 2nd, and we will adopt just 2 weeks after that on June 19th. But the governor can still veto through June 22nd. So all of my people say you adopt a current law, and we'll make the amendment after they figure out the funding that they're going to do. Some scenarios that would affect the general fund, the 199. That basic allotment increase, they're talking, I haven't heard over $200, that would generate about $500,000. But it's something. I've heard some adjustments to the current allotments, like Ginny's been talking about to SPED, and then of course still tax compressions and homestead exemptions, increases in those 2 things. So we're going to play along with our current rules, and we'll change them when they're approved. Okay, like we just talked about, the Child Nutrition Department, I'm going to start with that. It's its own separate fund. Right now it falls under my responsibilities, but since we're going self-operating, it's time to be its own department. So this is the kind of organizational chart and that I've come up with. Over the last couple of weeks, we had a little logo contest with her employees, and this is their new design. I thought it was really cute. They had 5 great ones. This was actually done by Ruben and Belinda Ramirez's daughter. Very talented. And we are working with Dawn and Erica in getting those job postings up so we can get the applications in and get the interviews going so they know before they leave in the summer what's going to happen. The last board meeting, we approved the Texas 20 co-op for food and milk purchases, and we almost are good on the point of sales software. So we're really excited about that. This is what it would look like. We'll have a director, and then that director has an assistant. And the only thing that changes would be this line. Instead of the assistant talking to the CFO, it goes straight to the director. Each cafeteria has a manager and an assistant manager, and they each have about 6 ladies that help run the lines. So we're very excited about that. One thing I know everybody wants to know is raises, and that's the biggest part of our budget, 80% of it, and what's that going to look like? We are going with TASB. Salary survey, they emailed us last week that our preliminary results we'll get next week, next Thursday. We're excited to see that. We've been going back and forth with all of our salaries, any questions they've asked, and I did want to note that these are the schools that will be in the comparisons when he does his report in May. We were trying to get like size plus the area plus some of the schools that we lose our teachers to. And so there's not a lot of numbers on this presentation because those kind of things just take time. A reminder, though, that the high school will be doing the TIA, the Teacher Incentive Allotment. Because of that, in October, we will have to give $500 for each designation to TEA. And so that will become a line in the budget and something to think about. But the payouts are going to be great, anywhere between $6,700 to $24,000 that they'll receive in April of 26. And then the following year, hopefully we'll get the rest of the campuses in that. Okay, I usually don't address calendars except the teacher calendar and academic calendar with y'all. But because of the change, you'll see the ripple effect. And so we wanted to be fair, we met with almost every department, but because, like I said, I wanted to be very transparent because it is kind of their contracts. And I wanted, it says approved, Jerry and I went back and forth about exactly what word to use. You're not taking action on this, but I do want your blessing, I guess. Or if there's discussion that you want to tweak or something, we can certainly do that. So we always start with the teacher calendar, the academic calendar, and we did approve that with 10 days less. So then here we go, we got 3 slides of these. So on the coaches, we usually had 10 extra days, 10 days up front before the academic calendar starts. Since we've done DOI and we already start early and have those 2 weeks of in-service, they're here even before 2-a-days. Usually that was to help with 2-a-days and get them paid when 2-a-days started. They're here a week before 2-a-days even start now. If we did it with this new calendar, they would be here mid-July. And so what a lot of schools are doing when they're changing over to these hybrid and 4-day weeks is taking those days away and just turning it into a stipend. And so we've talked about taking the days away before. We're one of the few schools that still do both days and stipends. And so what I'm proposing is to take the days away and to do the stipend. It would help with recruitment. And also those 10 days, if we bring them in mid-July, they're still going to be working those Fridays for game days, whether it's football, baseball, basketball. We don't want to assign them those days and say you have to be here for 8 hours on these 10 certain days. We just give them the stipend. The difference between contract days and stipend, a contract day, you have to be here on that day for your 8 hours. A stipend is for your extra time outside those contract hours and weekends. So it just makes more sense to turn it into a stipend. I did some averaging. This is kind of interesting because about half of our coaches are older, more experienced, and now we're getting some newbies. And so I averaged it out, and it averaged to just $3,099. But I'm proposing that be $3,500.
Does this affect their TRS?
Yes.
So does this, they will still have the same salary that they get here, but each one's going to get a stipend of $3,500.
Those 10 days were at their daily rate. And so this would be a $187 salary plus a stipend. And so it's still a $187
Contract.
salary. But instead of multiplying that daily rate by 10, instead we'll just add the $3,500 stipend to their stipend list.
Okay, here, again. I'm getting $50,000 down at 100 and whatever days. Whenever you take the 10 days away, am I still getting the same amount of money?
At 187, yes.
Okay.
And when you said affect your TRS, it's not everything that they get 10 days now or a stipend all goes to TRS. It's not going to change. Like they're not going to get a reduction in the contribution to TRS. It'll still be the same.
Okay.
But like,
I didn't want to mess with their retirement.
no.
Right.
So now they're going to get the same salary they were getting plus the $3,500. How much does that affect, let's just say coaches? How many coaches do you have that's going to get?
It's really not that many.
Spring,
It's less than
fall
15.
sports,
Yeah.
fall sports, so it would be football, volleyball,
Yeah.
cross country.
And that's,
I guess I'm trying to look at the bottom line, how much.
There, but no.
because the 2 tennis, one is on a 226 and her
Yeah.
assistant is a football. So, yeah.
But are you asking, is the salary going to go up or down or to stay the same? It's just going to look different. It's just going to figure out.
So, because that's what you asked, I know she meant, are they going to make the same amount of money they're making now plus 3,500? Not really, they're going to make the same salary they're making now for us.
They have 187 in the 10. They're still going to make the same 187, but instead of the 10, we're going to turn that into 35. It's a little bit more for some. It's just, I think, $100 less for a couple. And that's why the difference in that, I'd rather go higher.
They all get stipends already.
Yeah, this
So
would
their
just
stipend
be,
is just changing.
We'll still
That's
keep
what
their
I
football stipends, their tennis, their cross country. This is, and the volleyball. We'll call this something else.
That's what I would want to make sure that their stipend was changing to this flat amount. And for everybody, it's always the same.
Okay, for their ag teachers. Your ag teachers have always been on a 226, that's what central office and your principals and directors work. Again, they work weekends, you see them on weekends, Saturday and Sunday, you see them in the evenings. Instead of doing 226, we wanted to just do the student days at 177 and change those, it's 39 extra days is actually what they're paid, and change those 39 days to 12,000. And now this one, because we do have, there's only 3 of them, and one of them is close to retirement, and one of them's a newbie. So that one is a little bit shifty. We could change that 12,000 to the 12,300 so that one did not lose $300 in his last 5 years.
Okay, so the original thing we got at 10,000.
Yes, I've been updating it all day, yes. When I ran that average, the average was 12,287.
So are we going to leave it an odd amount like that, or are we going to make it round?
Do you want it 12 or do you want it like 12.5, 12.3?
I don't want it to raise.
Well, I have it at 12.
Figured
I have it at 12, but we can,
12,
okay.
12, or whatever you think. You do the numbers.
The instructional specialists, I talked to them, they work 10 days total extra, 5 days before and 5 days after the academic calendar. They did not want any change in their calendar except for the 10 less day as the teachers. On the SPED assessment staff, they also work 10 extra days, 5 days before and 5 days after. Do you want to speak on your behalf, or do you want me to speak for you? Jenny feels like the 10 days after are very productive. The 10 days before, not so much, because master schedules aren't done yet. And a lot of their schedules depend on the campus's master schedules. We could assign those other 5 days on some of those off days, but it would tie into them. So many times they work 4 days with kiddos, and then on Friday they do paperwork. With this schedule, some of those Fridays, they might be off. They're going to work those 5 days just like kind of those teachers are going to be in their classrooms when they need to get their work done. And so we're going to pay them for 5 days and change the other 5 days to a stipend. Again, I averaged it out. This is less than a dozen staff members. And it averaged out to $1,740, so I was going to say $1,750, where they have 5 extra days after, and then we'll pay them for a 5-day stipend where they work when they choose to work. And if they get all their work done within their contract days and hours, then they just get the stipend. On the athletic trainer and the RN, they work 20 extra days, and so they'll go from 207 to 197. Again, no change except for the 10 less days that the teacher had, and all 10 days will be up front. The RN does shot records for all the newbies, and the athletic trainer is here to do all the rank 1 information and such. Band directors work 30 extra days, no change for them except for the 10 less days. They work 20 days before and 10 days after. I think they work maybe more than 20 days before. I don't know if they ever go home. Okay, aides. I wanted to talk about aides a little bit. They're a little bit different. So when we added these waiver days, the waiver days are made or approved after we've already started the salaries. Many of them are using their personal leave days on those waiver days. And so they're like, please don't make us come on waiver days because we just use our leave day anyway. So what I'm proposing is 16 less days for them. That's 10, like the teachers, and then 6 of the waiver days. They would only work the student days plus the 7 in-service days, which would be 171. I'll say yay or nay on that one. And this would kind of help because this is one of those positions, and TASB is still looking at those salaries and tables, and so they could get a bump from them. But also this would bump that hourly rate and that daily rate for a group that's on the low side, on the low end.
And what your calculation is designed to do is to make sure that they make the same amount of money that they make right now.
They would still make, but I'm giving them 16 months.
That's like the purpose of all of our calculations.
All right, on the library aides, they work 10 extra days, and they will do the 10 less days like the teachers, and they said they just need a couple, just to leave it at 5 extra days. And they said like 2 or 3 at the front and 2 or 3 at the end, and they would be good with that. Child nutrition, again, is one of those groups that use personal days on waiver days, and so what they usually do is student days plus 5. But I'm saying actual student days because we don't want to we're taking the waiver days out plus 5 training days. So it'd be 169 for them and bus drivers. They're kind of the same. But their training days are a little bit different. That's why they're on different calendars. It's the same scenario for them. Custodial maintenance, we're gonna do no change this year. We're gonna see how it goes. Candy and I have talked about it. A lot of the pros to go in one of these calendars is they can deep clean on those Fridays when nobody's here, and maybe do a little bit extra training. And so we're going to see how that goes. If they have some extra time on their hands, maybe next year we'll change that. But right now we're still going to go. There you are. 245. She kept all of them. She kept her mechanic and her assistant all at the same, just reducing it by 10 days for the mechanic and your transportation assistant. On those. Your mechanic is still part-time.
Yes.
Campus secretaries, no change except for the 10 less days. They work 5 days before, 5 days after. Your APs, counselors, and librarian, just 10 less days. They work 10 before and 10 after. The elementary, intermediate, and DAP principals and principal secretaries, no change, still 30 days, except for the 10 less teacher days, 15 days before and 15 after. High school and middle school, they work 226. We'll just take those 10 days off and put your extra 10 days on Fridays in the summer. And then central office is a little bit different. They bank those non-duty days. It can range anywhere from 8 to 13 depending on leap year and weekends and when the academic calendar starts and ends. So that's a lot. Any questions? Like I said, I'm doing it more for transparency purposes because as you can see, especially that aid line where I'm giving 16 days, same pay. I wanted to be sure you were aware of that, and I said I have your blessing on that. It's not an action item, but if you do have concerns, let us know and we can tweak it.
Thank you for explaining that.
All righty, moving on to the departments. We're starting with special ed. This year, she's asking for the LSSP intern that we have this year to turn into a full-fledged LSSP next year. She'll be done with everything and she can take off the intern piece of her name. And our facilitator has completed her DIAC test, and so she can become a DIAC next year.
And that would
Actually,
be one at each campus, so each campus would have their own diagnostician.
And so the question is, can we replace that art facilitator? Numbers are still up. It would certainly be nice. And an SLPA for the middle school and high school caseloads. Do you want to elaborate on those two?
So in the speech department, that's the SLP, is the staff member that has the master's degree. They do all the assessments, they do all the Rs, they do all the paperwork. They serve kids also. The SLPA is the assistant. They do all services with kids. Their time is all spent with children. And so at the elementary and at the intermediate, which is where the highest number of students that are served falls, we have both an SLP and an SLPA on each of those campuses. Then we have just one SLP serving middle school and high school to do the services, all the ARDs. The case numbers are less, but it's difficult to get all the ARD meetings in by the same person to do those services. The benefit of having like 3 speech pairs would be that it would also give another assistant that could help offset some of the elementary on certain days that are heavy days of services. So, that would be we're contracting a little bit now as it is. We're getting, especially this time of year, when we get all the evaluation referrals. So we're having to use an outside contractor to come in and help just so we can meet timelines. But that's just would be a nice design to the program.
We currently give, I'm sorry.
You think if you have all these positions, you'll need the art facilitator?
No, we could, definitely could be flexibility. I don't know where, you offset the load is kind of the thought. The art facilitator could help all areas. They could handle all annual ARDs, where the diags would focus on new evaluations and any reevaluations. An annual ARD doesn't involve any new testing, but our diags are having to hold those ARDs and do all the paperwork for those as well. So we're looking at numbers of like 95 students per diag, whereas if you had an ARD facilitator that could pick up the ones that don't involve testing, it would kind of offset that number a little bit. So that, for the ARD facilitator, that's where that number helps. The SLPA helps more in the service area, providing the minutes to the kids.
In the past, I know we've had trouble finding people. Will that still be a problem?
Probably, because we did, one of our SLPAs returned in her letter of resignation. She's from Laredo and she wants to go back home. It's been hard for her to be away from her family. She was a rock star. I'm real sad to lose her. But I found her just by chance through a Region 20 group and I reached out to her. She was brand new out of college. It was hard. So I don't even know that we posted if we would get it. I guess we could post and see if we get applicants. If we don't, we will definitely be contracting because we won't have enough service providers. So Shannon just said give a wish list, so come on, Oprah.
We're looking at her assessment staff. Currently, the lead LSSP and the lead DIAC have stipends, and we would like to add a stipend for a lead SLP and make them all consistent. So there's not one that requires more.
There's definitely in the speech department, I've put a lot of extra work on one particular speech pathologist who's the most experienced, and it's just fallen that way, and there's no compensation for her to kind of be the lead to reach out and to organize and to do. So just having a lead, I guess, for each of the departments, one for assessment, one for the counseling and assessment, and then one for speech.
And we've been having some contracted services looking at some of our elementary programs, and their recommendation is to do the full day ECSE program. Right now it's part-time. Jenny has some ideas of what that could look like.
So by law, if we offer a full day program for pre-kinder students, we have to, by law, offer a full day program for special education students of the same age. And currently, right now, just because it's always been a half-day program, and if we have a student that comes in that needs to be there full day, we don't have an option for them. So that happened this year. We had one student that needed to be here all day. We didn't have a full-day program. So we had to kind of be creative with where we could place them under all the requirements. And so we have to be able to offer a full day for those students. So
we're paying a person half day.
right. So
This 65 would be on top of that, or?
it would possibly, do you want me to say what my idea was, or is that, okay. So currently at the elementary, we have 3 life skills teachers. There's a half day, that's the early childhood group, that's with Miss Davis. Then we have a kinder first grade teacher that's life skills, and then we have a second grade teacher that's life skills. So my thought was you take the 2 full days and you divide the kids kinder 1, and then, pre-K kinder, and then 1, 2. And those 2 full day teachers fill that role. And then you have a half day person who could do more push into the inclusion, like working with, because our goal is to get them to function in a pre-K classroom. Being able to go in to coach the teachers on how to help the kids be in the classroom, be included, kind of help also with the resource and inclusion side of the campus. But if we were able to add, is the 65 a full salary? To do a full salary, then you would have 3 full teachers that could meet the program needs. 1 would be able to help Mary Brown with resource. It would just be kind of shifting the different responsibilities if we were able to.
I guess what I'm asking is, so we would be paying another half salary, or would we be paying another full salary?
I just don't know if you could get a half person. And with those.
What I mean, we're already paying a half.
Right, but to do another half, because I don't know that Miss Davis would go to a full day. I haven't talked to her about that. So if she was staying as a half day, then I would have to fill with a half day. So rather than have 2 teachers in 1 classroom, 1 morning, 1 afternoon, and kids be there all day, I think that's not what's best for kids. And
No, I
so
agree.
trying to rearrange the
All I'm
responsibility.
saying is you're already paying for half of the day, whether it's just one person.
So I guess it would be that you would push to 3 full day teachers, and then you would kind of create a half day position that does other things, if that makes sense. So we would redefine the role.
And then we have more than a dozen actually moving from the elementary to the intermediate school this year. That's a lot.
There'll be 13 students in the life skills program at the intermediate.
And there's assistants included in that. And they're going to move into a portable outside. 2 a portable that has 2
Oh, yeah,
rooms.
portable.
We've already started buying some of the supplies they're going to need, talking with Candy about some of the renovations we're going to need in those 2 rooms. But at the end of the day, to be realistic, that might need a second teacher.
With the full day program that we were talking about before you just moved on, does that include additional funding as well, or to go to a full day from a half day to full?
Yes, that would be additional funding.
And if we weren't able to do an additional staff member, then I would have to redefine the 3 ladies we already have there to make it work to do a full day option.
And they can qualify when they're 3, correct? And so a 3-year-old's need versus a 5-year-old needs could be very.
And it is, I did verify that we could put kinder and pre-K together. That's still considered early childhood. But to put a pre-K kiddo in the first grade students, which is where we are right now with our situation of a student that has to be there all day, we put them in with the K1 class. So it's not the best setup, but it was all that we were able to meet. So it's either going to be a redesign or add a position and make 3 full classrooms with the half day doing different duties.
On facilities, the SPED building was kind of left out of the bond projects. And they're coming to find that some confidentiality, they need some soundproofing in there with some of their meetings. A lot of the meetings are held in that building. Those walls are pretty thin. And so maybe getting some quotes and such to tighten that building up some. You'll see later on, the roof was never done on that building either. That's been pushed back a couple of years. And so, and like I said, we've already started talking about storage and wall areas at the intermediate portable for those kiddos. And the sensory room and adaptive PE, we've already started getting some of those supplies in this year's budget.
I would gladly take whatever, I mean, that by all means is a full wish list, and I can prioritize where you need things. We'll make it work. It is what it is. But everybody's always willing to make it work.
All right, moving on to Jesse. He was not able to make it tonight, but he reminded us that ESSER funds are gone, and we're going to have to still continue to upgrade those Chromebooks that we're giving for grade levels. Right now, they get new Chromebooks when they're in 9th grade, when they go into high school, and they use them for 4 years. And then at the end of those 4 years, we push them down to elementary and intermediate. So the life of a computer, though, is not that long. And so he'd like to do around, he has 500. So the difference in the prices is the difference in the make and model of the Chromebooks he's looking at. Kind of talked about it, and we said, why don't we keep it at high school and middle school? But he had his reason that y'all are still using iPads. Some of those are conversions from.
Our biggest concern with the Chromebooks right now are the audio jacks for the testing. A lot of them, well, actually every kid's getting them now, but some have the auto text-to-speech or whatever, but we're having a lot of issues with the audio jacks not working or breaking, or, it's because a lot of the upgrades they do are software stuff or system stuff, but the actual ports, the things like that, so it gets pretty beat up. So that's where our major concern is right now.
The upgrade, the backup appliance is $40,000. It's not like a stove or refrigerator, it's a piece of technology equipment. And then he said, again, this is a wish list, a trucker van for his staff. They have moved to the old parent place next to the old church. And so they do travel more than they used to. And so they threw in a truck and van on his side. Transportation, starting with Ms. Stein. Just to remind y'all, we have 2 buses on order this year, and we already have on order a SPED bus and a regular bus on next fiscal year, and that should take us through the grants. And then we're always going to throw in an SUV in there. I think our Suburban now is 3 years old.
The newest one, yes.
Yeah, the newest one is 3 years old, and so you can always use some kind of 6 to 8 passenger vehicle. Those are always on the go.
Well, they are, but it'd be nice to have something mid-size.
Okay.
Because traveled with 9 kids the other day on a big old bus.
Yeah.
When smaller bus would have done just fine.
And we've looked at white buses before. They're just not very economical. And then you still have to get almost a bus certification license. But Candy has lots of ideas. Do you have any comments on?
One of the last white buses that we looked at was 116, 120 something like that. And a brand new 76 passenger bus is 135. That's
It's crazy.
Shannon, can I throw a comment back on mine?
No, Jenny, you're through.
I feel like I've asked for a lot. We did absorb how many aides this year we haven't refilled?
Yes, quite a few. We were trying to
Yes.
absorb 3 or 4 of her aides to get that teacher at elementary, but then once we looked at the numbers, actually intermediate that needed the extra teacher. And so that's why that's kind of in gray on Michael's slide, where we did already post it and are interviewing and maybe hiring that position.
And it was just as the aid positions came up, rather than rehire, we were trying to see if we could hold off and put it towards classroom. So I'm not greedy.
Moving on with candy stuff. On the custodial side, each of our custodians have a cell phone. And the cell phone bill, along with custodians and other directors and admins that have phones, it's almost $2,300 a month. And so looking at those and looking what others do, some of them use walkie-talkies, and it just depends on if we can get it to reach each other and reach Candy and how that would all work out. But she thinks she could do it, and that would save almost $1,000 a month in cell phone bills. So you might look at that. For special projects this year, the transportation lot pavement. If you've ever driven in that, you got to avoid all the potholes. That would be about $40,000. You mentioned the sped roof. That was a bid 3 years out, 2 to 3 years old, $28,000, and so it might be a little bit more nowadays. Today, transportation upgrades. And so if you go into the transportation and walk into where they kind of congregate before and after bus routes, we could kind of spruce that up a little bit. They deserve it too. We might have visited another school and went, what? That's a lot nicer than ours. And our people deserve just as nice as them. And so we kind of want to even have Kaylin Road Travel. If you've seen the libraries, she's done a tremendous job on all those libraries. I even said, hey, start thinking about the transportation and what we could do over there. The central office boardroom, what we're in, we're thinking maybe if we could expand into that office. Doug could relocate to the back. We have some offices open in the back. If we opened up this wall, that would give us a little bit of room. Like we had the other night was pretty tight. Doesn't look like it's just a wall. But the quote on that was about $25,000. At the middle school, if you look up at the middle school, it's not pretty. Some of those tiles in the gym and the cafeteria need to be replaced. Candy's pricing that at about $10,000. It's an easy fix and would be a big improvement. The D-Stack sound system comes and goes. Even though we work on it and we put a hanger and we wave our hand, sometimes that thing doesn't work. And so we just wanted to get it fixed and working. And so when we push the button, it works. At SPED also, we took out some bushes that were not alive anymore. So we just kind of want to now replace that with some kind of zero-scape. Over there, a lot of people, there's a lot of families that go for meetings there for testing and such, and it should look.
We had no school front to that one.
We need to fix this.
I've dug up some bushes. They're dead.
So
Ours is just dirt now.
That's kind of what we are.
we just want to make things look nice.
We're supposed to have a couple of trees that need to come down because they're dead.
Okay.
Sure.
Let's do it. The records room, from central office, we still have a lot left over there from when we moved out on 5 years ago. And Jenny's like, get your stuff out now. Anyway, we always said we were going to use one of the rooms at DAP in that portable. And so it's time to do it though. We'll use most of the shelving that we have, but we'd like to purchase a little bit more shelving. We might need to put some supports under it with all the boxes we're going to put over there. It won't cost much. And then the central office parking lot striping, people just kind of park wherever up front. So kind of put some lines out there to make it a little bit more organized. Candy, any?
I was gonna say, why are you looking at me?
Are you jumping in yet? No? Okay. It's your last shot. Okay. Ruben on the maintenance side loves the turf tank, and it's on lease, and so the renewal on that lease is just $6,000. It's supposed to be pretty cool. I still haven't gone to go see it yet. It does the lines on all the fields, on the football fields and the practice field. On the library department, she's going to save you money. A lot of y'all's kids have gone to our school and done the AR clubs and the AR prizes and the AR field trips. We've kind of found that program, maybe has served its time. And there's other ones that don't cost quite as much. And so Gomez in the elementary admin, and it comes out of Kaylin's budget because it uses library books. It's kind of tricky. But they're looking at other programs that won't cost as much. And like I said, she is our little Miss Joanna Gaines. That intermediate school used to be the old band hall, if y'all remember, and so it still has carpet on the walls. And she goes, "Can I please take the carpet off the walls?" I was like, "Well, let's make sure there's not anything behind it." And so we're looking at the book to make sure there's not asbestos behind it, and then she's gonna give it some fresh paint. She has this cute idea about painting books on the wall. And then the middle school flooring, we're getting quotes.
We already have the quotes.
We have the quotes, and that might get done this year with this year's funds. But then we want to include, we also got quotes for the admin offices at the middle school.
Let's face it, the carpet is 40 years old.
It's time.
Done its time.
Miss Wilson's here tonight, and so we've talked about this a couple of times, that adding an additional member on her staff. Many times she's called away from the high school to take care of something at one of the other 3 campuses, whether it's an emergency or there's a sub, or helping with all the paperwork that goes along with that department. We would kind of think of it, and do you want to present it? Or?
You can go ahead.
It would be more of like a medical assistant at the high school, and then she would become a floater for emergencies, campus nurse absences, and the paperwork. If we do the health services pathway, which we'll talk about on the high school slide, the district RN, Ms. Wilson, would also possibly teach and facilitate a section or 2 of that, and would take her away from the office. And so it just makes sense to do this. They've been asking this for years now. And it's probably time that this happens.
The idea of hiring another person, in all honesty, no one is beating down our door to come sub for us. It's not just ice packs and Band-Aids. You have to be very comfortable and have confidence in what you're doing to help our children. There's a very wide range of medical complexities behind our doors and our walls, and we just can't grab anyone off the street to come and help us. So there's many times if one of my girls is out, I'm going back and forth between my office and that other campus as well. A few weeks ago, I was at the elementary for, I think, a little over 2 hours with the situation, which is fine. We make it work. My girls do a fantastic job at helping out. The front offices are great, but if we had one more person, that would just alleviate some of that back and forth that we have. It would also help cut down on the overtime that staff gets throughout the year. With having another person, I could take more of the paperwork load off of our elementary staff. There's at least 150 new shot records just for kindergarten alone that has to be reviewed and put in by hand into the system at the start of every single year, and we can't get anyone a teacher and a meet the teacher card until that is done. So I help out as much as I can. We divvy everything up, but if we had one more person, I could handle more of that load for them.
And then we have AEDs throughout the district, and the middle school shop requested one, and that's certainly an easy. Yes, we can add one to there. And Ms. Wilson has done a great job putting all of our AEDs and their batteries on a system, and so we know when those batteries are coming up. And big one's going to be year after next, and so I think this is the perfect time to add it.
The next closest to the middle school shop, there's 3. There's one at the middle school along the 6th grade bathroom hallway. There's one in the ag building and one in the band hall as well. But Mr. Moore did ask if possible we could add one in there. I think it's a great idea. We have had to take one out in that vicinity before, and every second counts.
One in the 6th grade hall.
6th grade bathroom hall.
AED. Good things you learn when you come.
The 6th grade bathroom, right there, the hallway, the cafe.
Oh, the cafe, okay. I'm thinking sixth grade hall is this way. I'm like, there's nothing there. Okay, now that we're clear.
Gary came and did the athletic department, the softball field upgrades were later on in the presentation, and he did not request the soccer program, but Dr. Grandjean did just say, hey, if we did implement it, what would it cost? And he's thinking around $20,000 supplies, uniforms, and stipends, if that was brought about. High school band, he has his new uniforms, he's happy for a couple of years. He's going to spend, he already knows what he's going to spend his instrument budget on, some new sousaphones, if that's the correct way you say that. And the last couple of years, there's been some miscommunication about purchasing an additional trailer for the band. The Booster Club usually does that. They do very well. And they usually purchase the trailer, and then and we always have something to pull it. Candy's suggesting maybe they do some kind of trailer where we can do the gooseneck and not put so much wear and tear. So much wear and tear on the truck that pulls it. Okay, going to the high school. We have some visitors from the high school. Would you like me to pass it on to you, Kate, or would you?
Well, you start.
You're doing such a good job.
With some shifting in their schedule, they think a new Spanish teacher would be beneficial. And with the cosmetology program taking off and where it is, and it's another half is what they're asking, another half cosmetology teacher. On that one, a new program of study would be something in the health services. We're not quite sure what it's going to look like, but we said it wouldn't require us to put an MA at the high school, so Ms. Wilson could oversee it. And then the curriculum, we get most of these CT curriculums through ICEB, and we've already got a quote, depending on how many students sign up for it, it's $2,750 per 50 students. There's some programs that they've been using. Canvas is kind of like if you go to college, that's where you turn in everything and get all your lessons and testing and reviews and such. They're going to think about if we're going to continue to use that and the Achieve 3000. It might stay, it might go. Only time will, the next couple of months will tell. All right, ladies. Either one, please.
I mean, are there any specific questions about the health sciences? They would
It's already popular, and I think it'll really help our students.
It would be very popular. Right now, we're looking at having 2 class periods for the next school year. Those 2 class periods, ideally, I would teach. It would be medical terminology, good intro for the students, a good little intro as to what all it entails, the verbiage behind everything. That'll give them a good idea on if they're interested or if they're like, this is a language I do not care anything for. So that'll be a good start for them. Ideally, we'll probably do like 2nd and 3rd period. That's something us ladies will figure out when it's not too busy of a clinic time for everyone. But they would have medical terminology, they would have health science theory, anatomy and physiology with Mrs. Ronhell, and then they would have a practicum in their 4th year. 2 locations ideally that are close to us and staying within a close community would be the hospital in Hondo and then our nursing home here in town.
And 3 industry-based certifications that we think we can get, am I right? Certified nurse's aide, certified clinical medical assistant, and patient care technician.
And then depending on what kind of practicum they can get in year 4, you can add 2 more certifications to that, which would be phlebotomy and EKG technician.
And we did survey the middle school students, the 8th graders, just if you had to pick today, what would be your 1st, 2nd, and 3rd choice of a program of study? And the 1st and 2nd, we had, I think, 118 students fill out the survey, which is almost all the students. I think it was about 122 that I was told. or maybe it was 112, but we were within, about 10 students. And there were, between the first and second choice, 25 students. And generally, freshmen have room in their schedule to take 2 level 1 or level 2 classes. So I always encourage them kind of to try out a couple of things and then figure out what they like. So I would anticipate next year pretty easily, at least 25 students. And that's before they've really, gone home and thought about it and talked about it. So, but that's kind of where we are right now. We're just trying to get some feedback on how many kids would be interested, so.
Was there any with the FCCLA to do the other pathway with the education side? Has that been?
Currently, we have the FCS pathway. I'm not sure how that.
There has been some discussion on that. I think with one teacher, I don't know that we could do both. It's really hard for one person to do 2. We've kind of looked at, well, you could have the principals, and then you could do child development as the level 2 for both of those programs of study, but then that's where it splits. And so if we split there, then that teacher would be doing a principles of child development, and then they'll also have to take on the practicum for the teaching class, and then the teaching and training the first level, and they would have to take on the FCS class plus whatever that 4th level is. So I don't know. I don't know that one person can really do all of that without stacking classes, which is difficult and probably not ideal to put them all in there at the same time. So I think to make a good decision on that, if we're going to make a change, is to find out how many students want. Where's the need? Is it with the teaching and training, like as far as the students, or the FCS? Originally when we shrunk down to 1. It was we had more students in the FCS side than we did the teaching and training, and so that's why when we had to give one up, we were like, well, I guess we'll give up the one that has the fewest amount of students in it. But I do think that it is a great program, and if there were a way to shift things around a little bit, I think it would be great if we could bring it back.
I just think there's so few educators out there. If there's a way to encourage some of our own to go and come back.
Well, a lot of them do, so,
Yeah.
I agree, and that, it came up today. So,
One of the pieces of the health sciences is Ms. Fowler and Ms. Watts have been helping us big time since August, kind of evaluating another program that we have that participation may not be growing in our fire academy. So we visited with folks at the fire academy. They're great. They're trying to figure out if there's a way to reorganize and see if there's a cost difference, but interest in that program, do you want to say? I remember the numbers that you said.
The numbers were pretty low. As a first choice, there was 1 student. I think as a second choice, there were 2 more. When we got down to the third choice, I think there were as many as maybe 7. So let's say everybody got their first, second, and third choice, all of those kids, then we're looking at 10 kids. But generally, like I said, it breaks down to they don't have that much room in their schedule. If they're in athletics, they've got a foreign language, they have their core, they have all the things they have to do. So when they have to pick and choose, we didn't have very many students picking that as their first or second choice.
In the discussion, we talked with the president of the board of the VFD, and he said school is extremely important to him and those Devine, how they can help. They'll try to work with us in the program, but if they're not able to do it, they're not able to do it. So that may be a discussion that we have to have at another meeting too. But what I was saying is the money that's there, if that changes, that's kind of a wash. Much better than a wash. Much better than a wash.
All right, moving on to DAP and the Learning Academy. She had no new or additional requests. And the middle school. And she caught me when I asked them to double check my work this morning. She caught me. She goes, what about my new ELAR teacher? You currently have 5 teachers. You have 6 math. And so adding additional English teacher would make 6 and 6. And I'm sure scheduling
Because we only have 4 history and 4 science. And then 2 of the history are coaches, 2 of the science are coaches. So, and then trying to put all these kids in the middle into the core classes, it just inflates the classes. Plus that would give us another teacher who could put a core class at the beginning of this day and at the end of the day. Because right now, once you lose all those coaches at 6 on both ends, then we have really big classes in some of those other classes. Plus with tutoring and just the reading portion, that would help us out a whole lot.
And Ms. Darnell really dug into her instructional programs. High school's been doing Achieve 3000. She'd like to try it at the elementary, at the middle school. Again,
Say, wait a minute.
if you want to explain it.
Yeah, well, we would use like the Achieve 3000 for reading because our ELA teachers didn't really like the programs we have. The kids were not really into it. And we think this will work, plus it's something that the high school's using. And in talking to Julie, I like what Julie had to say about how the kids received it. So this would be for 150 kids. Plus we have difference in prices though. Because like ours, this is what I came up with, and high school was less for about the same number of kids. I don't know. But it'd be basically for our lab classes and pride classes for intervention. And then maneuvering the middle. This is something our math teacher, especially Miss Tolson, who has a lot of success, uses a lot. So we're trying to get the other teachers to use it as well. The Get More Math, we actually did that for free this year. We were one of the programs, we ran the program for them as a pilot. And we use it for intervention because it does a lot of spiraling, and the kids seem to like it. So that was one of the ones that teachers wanted to keep and do. ELA teachers did not want to use the IXL, but they did like the Newzella. Then they piloted that, was it 2 years ago? Abby brought it in and they used it and they really liked it. Because again, it brings in a lot of the current articles or current news that's happening for the kids to read. And so it's more up to date. The ELA art teachers like that. And of course, our teach changed for the computer classes, the careers. So with the ICB, once we put in the ag and we put the careers, that's kind of what we came out to. So.
And Vicki, we talked a lot about, she has computers and Ms. Rumfield and Mr. Moore. If there's any way we can make those classes y'all's initial classes in y'all's pathways.
Well, I mean,
we're open
we've got-
to doing that.
Yeah, we've got art now, so they can get
And
art
art.
credit for high school this
Right.
year. They can get principles of ag for high school credit.
And then the algebra was the
The
other.
algebras for high school credit, and then
And they want to do French, but okay. I'm willing. I don't know. Where am I going to use French? I don't know.
But if you have any suggestions.
Now, see, they got the Spanish.
we don't need another.
We're always looking, every time we hire a new ELA teacher, we always look to see if maybe do they have Spanish in there?
Yeah,
Because
that would help
there were a
too.
couple of classes of Spanish, which I know would help the kids a lot.
Will you have 2
That way.
years of computer science? Because that can be used as a language other than English, 2 years.
Well, computer science for us is computer 1, learning to use the computer, and computer 2, learning to use the programs. So it's not actually what I would think of as computer science. They're not coding or anything like that. So.
And then Ms. Bain does the art, but certainly there's 4 classes that we'd like y'all's input if there's any way.
Because Ms. Bain has gotten with Ms. Hamby, so they're doing the same thing. So this year, instead of having Art 2, we actually have Art 1 high school credit, and we have 2 sets of 8th graders that are doing that too.
And that's going to help a lot.
Mhm.
It's going to help the kids a lot.
So if we could do Spanish somehow.
We've been looking
I
for.
mean, we'll do French, but I just,
We used to do it in the summer, Spanish, just post a Spanish like class, bridge, high school bridge. And whoever wanted to take the Spanish test or test out of it or take the class, that way you could free up that class time.
We have them test out.
Yeah.
They're, so, we have.
well, some of our ESL kids that go up there, oh yeah.
So, but yeah, those classes are, we used to have 3 teachers. And then we went down to 1.5, basically. So those classes are huge. That's why Frenchie.
You have someone that'll be certified in it.
All right, anything else you'd like to add?
No, I mean, well, we could always use another, actually inclusion aid, because we do use, well, we kept as Gonzalez, but we have a lot of kids that need inclusion. The hard thing is when they need 120 or like 200, like, oh my gosh, put them in resource at 200 minutes. They need to be in resource, but we've tried to keep it down, and then we try to work with high school so that they're not overburdened with the number of minutes that the kids have when they go to high school. Otherwise, that makes it hard on them.
We're trying to do the same realities, so.
Yeah, it's, but yeah, that's the other thing, we could use another aid. But yeah, just throwing that in. You said wish list, right? And I left out a whole lot of stuff, Dan.
Everybody, to be honest, everybody on the whole was very nice this year. Very, very nice. They didn't ask for much. Okay, Mr. Gomez, you're up.
Jenny made me add a bunch of stuff on there. That's the very first one. Fourth grade teacher, we have one. So they team teach in fourth grade. We're 7 right now, and that third grade group is like really big. We're 160 almost. So that would be something really awesome. Math interventionist. We have a reading interventionist. Math, obviously, we always could use extra help. That would help us out in our RTI situation. We're going to adjust that model next year too, with our IXL program and how we do RTI and how our kids get grouped. So that'll be something that can help us out. The ISS and sub, I think that's, I don't know if that was going to be combined with elementary but yeah, there's a need for that. We're really not set up when we have kids in our ISS. They sit in our office and they can be around things that, confidentiality wise, that they shouldn't be hearing. So having somebody to be able to watch them, and then if we don't have anybody, being able to, push in the classrooms to help out if we're short on subs or something would be really helpful for us. Melody Reeve, make sure I said this one again. We brought it last year. So we went again, then we won 12 years in a row, something like that. So they would like an increase to those stipends. It's hard to find coaches, and they put in a lot of work extra. So they would like to see those stipends go from 2 to 4 per event for UIL. And what was that one?
If you do that, then it's going to have to go up to middle school too, though. It's the same. They'd have to add that tagline.
Because we won it more than y'all. Just saying.
I'm undefeated, that's all I know. The specials class, this is going to be kind of cool. So we had Madison Pike, she's one of our paras that, but she runs her class, and we had iReady that we're going to do away with iReady and use IXL as our RTI program, but we're not going to push it into that classroom. And so I kind of tasked her with like finding something, and she was very excited about starting an ag class to kind of fit in with our pipeline to the rest of the schools. There's a complete curriculum free through our Texas Education Agency, and so she's already over the moon about adding an ag lab, and they're going to take over the garden and work on
awesome.
animal science and things like that. So that'll be one of our changes to our labs. The music first curriculum. So this will help out with TIA for Mrs. Ryu. They will build an assessment, a pre and post, for her to be able to participate in TIA. And they also do many of the other fine arts. So high school, if you don't want to build rubrics, they will do a pre and post test. And they have a different rate for all that, but it's like $1,500 and they'll do like the whole district. So. What are the renovations? Oh yeah, that's the portables for our life skills. Again, we're getting a bunch in from the elementary, so we're taking one portable, 2 classrooms, and we just want to upgrade those a little bit and get some changing tables put in, some shelving, some flooring, and things like that. So, we would like an additional copier at our campus. Seems like one's always down for some reason. And also they're very far away from, they're really on one side of the campus. So we'd like one more centrally located. Really on the furniture list, I know you're gonna put all that in there, Shannon.
Everything on.
So that stuff came out, like the chairs and stuff, for when I thought they were gonna do the bond, like the new office, and like we were gonna make it, but that's not really important. Classroom desk and chairs, though, that is, I talked with Shannon about that as far as our stuff is really, really old and mismatched, and I'm not sure how old those furniture are. I probably went to school in it.
We're both from here, so we can probably find our initials.
Yeah, so, but I think you have another slide on that one later. And then the field trip, PTO usually pays, and they had to dance on Friday, and they're probably going to pay again, but we just like include just in case. But we do like to provide a spring field trip for our girls.
Any questions from Mr. Gomez? Thank you. All right, at the elementary, moving on to the elementary. Currently, they have 3 general ed aides, and 1 was transitioned to a reset lab setting. It wasn't just for sped students, it was any kind of behavior or just kind of relax if a student needed a different environment for a few minutes. She wants to continue that lab, but then that would leave them only with 2 general aides, and even 3 seems to be short. Really, by the time she pops in and out of 7 different classes, really it's just a bathroom break. And we need them, those aides are really intended, to help student learning. A dedicated sub to assist with class coverage and ISS, similar to what Gomez was talking about. They're willing to share that position. ISS isn't that often at that age, but when it does, it needs to be. For an increase in the substitute budget, this came up a couple of times, and so that's why I kind of pointed it out this year. I wanted y'all to be aware. They test 3 times a year, and for reading and math, it's a one-on-one test with the kiddos, and they do their best when it's a one-on-one test. And so we provide subs for them. I just wanted y'all to be aware. That kind of increases that sub budget at that campus. They started Character Strong this year, and they'd like to include the tier 2 and 3. That in Miss Spivey, if you'd like to jump in on that, that's their character program, where Champs is more of their discipline program. And they want more on-campus trainings with some of the programs we've implemented, like 95% phonics and the Blue Bonnet Math. Again, we're going to talk about furniture a little bit later, but specifically teacher chairs and some new rugs and a couple of tables on that campus. Those get pretty dirty pretty often with some of the accidents they have down there. And then she mentioned for renovation, some of those portables. Some of the bathrooms could use some upgrades in the main building, and some of the shared spaces, some painting, and a new marquee. And we're trying to get a new marquee for both the intermediate and elementary. In the bond projects, we've had a couple of businesses come in and asked how they could help. And we kind of say, hey, help us with a marquee. Those suckers can run $65,000. And it's not really that fancy, but we even talked about it today. Especially with the new building at the elementary, they'll need one, and Mike's is old school where you put the letter.
Yes. And with the new fence, you can't see it anymore. So, yeah, I can use the very top line.
Any questions for the elementary?
Shannon,
Yes.
For that, the substitute budget, especially for VOI, MOI, and EOI, correct me if I'm wrong, but that is for our MCLAS data, and that's also what eventually our TIA money will go off of. So we're not able to pull them one-on-one and test them, or we're having to test them in our classroom with 19 other students. It's very hard, and we're not getting a true active representation of what they know. So
thank you.
That's also what one of the legislative moves is to make a standardized assessment for the early grades.
Yes.
And use the results to formulate the mandatory tutorials like they did with 45.
I want to add on my side, it didn't show the instructional programming, but like over the last 2 years, we've been auditing like as far as our instructional applications, the usage, and like making sure that we're not wasting some money. We've streamlined it a whole bunch, we're cutting a whole bunch of programs, Yeah, the iReady program costs $25,000 for the year. IXL is $25,000 for 2 years. And so just by switching that, it's going to save us $25,000 in instructional program side. Plus, IXL counts for HB 14, 16 hours, where iReady didn't. And so that's going to help us to calculate that. I mean, to help, service those kids as well. So, and we've done that with several other ones, and really, I think we're down to maybe 5 or 6 key ones. So it's, we're also trying to save money, not just.
I wanted to throw in safety and security. The TEA allotment is in the general fund. That's the one that got a big increase. We used to get just less than $10,000, and that has increased to almost $100,000. We use it mainly for the SRO services. Anything left, we've been looking at some supplies for the Guardians. We don't really want to go into that in open session, but some of the things that we could get for them. And then we saw the federal funds that we're finishing up with the door projects, the intercoms, and finishing those fences.
And there'll probably be some intruder glass stuff just to be done.
They also are putting the mental health crisis prevention training under safety as the legislative.
When are they starting on doors?
So April, he's finishing up one more school and he's coming back. I met with him, and then he's going to start. We're going to go through, do the walk, order the parts, and then he'll start coming back to replace. So I have that full list that we went through on that last walk. And this will be like non-bond project doors, so away from all the construction that we're doing right now.
Divine PD notified me Friday also that they received a grant that they had applied for to get 2, I don't know, like superhero ballistic shields that are on rollers that would take high-power rifle shots. That would be kind of how you make your way in an emergency. There's only 2 of them, but what we're going to do is come up with a plan that we're going to take them to the campuses to kind of, not let somebody know where they are all the time. That way they're not one place or the other. But Lieutenant Andrews will probably have make a more unified statement about that. But he said that, 2 more years we'll get another grant. Then we have one on each campus. We don't have to rotate it. But he said they're so heavy that one person can't pick them up. It's kind of having a mobile army tank, I guess, to look at the hallway.
The intercom project, intermediate, should be done this month, and I think the elementary is already done, and I think they finished the work at the high school and Van Hall situation.
And then we just need that DSAP.
And the DSAP.
Okay, for Ms. Schneider's HR and data management, we wanted to remind us that we're continuing the counseling services with communities and schools. It goes up a little bit every year, sitting almost $92,000. We're thinking of increasing our recruiting supplies so we can, it's that time of year. Whether it be advertising or goodies or something to get us going on that. And then every other year we have to do the fixed asset inventory. What everyone loves with all the stickers. Would you like to add anything? Some possible capital projects. The tennis courts and the softball field upgrades, those quotes are at least a year old with all of our contractors. They could give us a little bit of update on that. Do y'all have any discussion, or would that be at a later time on those 2 projects?
I'd really like to see some tennis courts.
I really would too.
I told Todd that was going to be my swan song to be able to sing that.
Well, just to let you know, we have 65 middle school kids playing.
Wow.
Well, that's why we stagger, and we leave the courts late every night. So that's,
I think the last you talked to us, maybe too.
So when we first had that, we were thinking that it was around a little over $1 million for 4 courts, but we've since found out from Casey that it was probably 1.2, something like that, for 8 courts. And I got in contact with him today. He said it wouldn't be impossible to have them by fall. It would be a super lift, but he said without a doubt it would be easy to have them starting in 2026.
Take it. As long as I say somebody.
Well, put it this way, it'd be nice to be able to have home court advantage in the fall because we travel all the time. We're never home.
The softball field upgrades, that was for a major renovation. Super facelift. I've been talking with another board member that we're probably going to go this week and look at some things that could make some changes, especially with the backstop. Start in the back and then work your way out. Because that way you don't get to a position where you built this and now the fences don't match up. But that's a program that's super important to us, and we'll make sure that we might be the facility that is the most, as well as the tennis courts right now. Those are our two priorities.
Plus we need resources. We have chunks out.
Did we actually pick up that shed that went there?
It's gone.
It's
I don't know if they call it a shed.
Yeah, it was supposed to be like a concession stand one time.
Yeah, it was at one
I
time.
know we were in it doing concession one time.
Yeah. It
Well, I
kinda,
saw it folded up and then they moved it further down, but have they moved it since then?
Yeah.
It's still on the,
no, it's still there.
it's on the fence line.
Yeah, it's not in the way you took away. But yeah, it's still
Okay,
there.
need to get it out of there.
For sure.
Okay, on my end, I had a couple of requests. Speaking to every campus, furniture, whether it be in the admin offices or for the kiddos. And sometimes, depending on the campus, it might be a desk or it might be tables. And teacher chairs. Once one teacher gets a new chair, then all of a sudden we see POs for every teacher once it's here. So if we just buy them in bulk or do it deliberately and intentionally, we get better deals. And my idea is maybe 100,000 per campus per year, roll it out after over 4 years, and get some new furniture for our kiddos and our staff. The wellness program, this was the furniture. These are very, very rough estimates, whether it's desk or tables, 4,000 to 2,500, student chairs, $2,500 a classroom, and that varies by campus, and then the teacher chairs. They like nice chairs, but they deserve them. And so, again, I'm asking over a 4-year period, $100,000 each year, and we'll do one campus at a time.
Who's gonna choose the kid?
It's just a wish list. We'll pull it out of the hat.
I'm not playing you in pickleball.
No, now I'm just gonna say, let's go play golf.
Yeah, let's play golf. We'll do that.
I'll take you on.
Okay, this one, I'm going to try not to cry on this one, but a couple of staff members that are no longer with us. I was kind of making some notes, and Mr. Gomez was also kind of thinking the same thing. I've given you links to 2 different proposals. His, of course, is very nice and organized and businesslike, and mine was just random thoughts I think of throughout the day. His reimbursement program, if you had a chance to look at it, it would actually reimburse for certain, let's try to make it a little bit bigger, reimbursement from up to, for, it has a specific dollar amount, $360 per year, for fitness memberships, equipment, training, different kinds of things. And it would go through the payroll side. Again, both of these programs promoting both physical and mental health, we think, would help in absences, the overall morale, or overall district culture. It could only improve things. And it would all be optional. The employees do as much or as little as they want. The overall cost, Gomez even has in here. And so really kind of my question is, is the board willing to go, with money, which we would certainly appreciate, or mine is just kind of, I was thinking no money. So, we would do some kind of rewards. It wouldn't require them to buy an Apple Watch or anything. We'd do it and it would be, on your honor. but making simple choices instead of going to a fast food restaurant, making the meal at home. Just simple on their conference periods or before and after school, doing a round around the building. We implemented it at the central office, and an alarm goes off every hour on the hour, and we have to do 10 squats. And we're up to 30 squats each time, and so 10 different kinds. And if I forget or in a meeting and I come out, they're like, "You owe us squats." And I'm like, okay, so it's kind of worked out at our office. Kind of want to see it going on around anywhere. No dig on the energy drinks, I'm not. But maybe something alternative, maybe a water with lemon or something. A farmer's market, I see that advertised a lot, maybe having it at school where they come here. Even before we were switching food service management companies, we're hoping to bring back some more teacher lunch options for them. Some healthy salads and sandwiches and things like that. Could do pickleball. I hear there's a little league going, we could expand that league.
We got 2 courts at the middle school. I just need new paint to redo it.
It's just simple things like that.
There's a good massage lady that comes to elementary.
If y'all would be willing to invest in some kind of program, whether it be one of those or a combination of something like that, we'd like to do next school year. And finally, a lot of things on the news is about federal funding and Department of Education. We've been reassured. We just came back from a conference, Jenny and I, and they pretty much reassured us it's not going to go away. They're just going to give it to the states. And with that, we'll have a little bit more leeway and not so many strings maybe, but we really don't anticipate losing that money. And again, just if you were curious, most of it goes to salaries, and those are the positions that we get with that federal funding. It's just over $1 million, but it is a dozen or so of our staff members. Real quick, again, we don't have payroll, which is 80%. Right now, just comparing expenditures from the current year to what everyone requested, not including payroll, the difference is $3.5 million, but $1 million that is the tennis courts, the $500,000 is the softball renovations, and remember, we did agree to contribute $2.5 million in additional bond projects. Revenue is even trickier to project at this time of year. We don't have certified values until the end of April. Running just very generic templates. With current law, we'd see an increase in state aid of about $100,000 and about $300,000 in tax revenue if they don't compress the tax rate again. But I see that in a lot of legislation, either increase in the homestead exemption or more tax compression. And that is it. Y'all have
So kind of like normal, or less money and more expenses.
But like I said, they were very, there weren't that many extra requests this year. Everybody's trying to pitch in, everybody's excited about what the bond's going to bring to us, and excited that we're going to get some new stuff here in Juan, so.
In revenue versus expenditures, when you take out the additional bond projects, or our tennis courts, I mean, it'd be a wash.
Yes.
Pretty much.
Yeah, because we'd said we were going to do that out of fund balance.
And that's attributed to the decisions and the no button in our office that if you go to the superintendent meetings that we have at Region 20 and just visiting with other people, we're one of just the very few that are not facing critical budget issues with getting rid of staff members. I mean, there's no part of any of that that said, hey, we're going to have to reduce our staff by 10%, which is really good testament to the people that take care of the money here for sure. Just tell me what paper to sign.
Well, is there anything in particular? I think the second budget workshop will have at least a preliminary report. And with that, he'll give us new tables and what those options will cost in terms of raises and changing those tables. And that will really help us decide on these additional expenditures.
Remind me what date that is.
Jerry?
It's in April.
Tomorrow is that fast.
Actually, I think it's in May. I think it's like May 5th.
I want to say I said it after April 30th because that's when we get certified. And that'll give us a couple of days to
May
run
5th.
certified values
Yeah, I think it's May 5th.
with the new budget.
But we might need to change it because we have to do a canvas before our next May board meeting. So, we can't do it on the 5th. We'll see. Well, that's a lot of work, Shannon, thank you. It gives us a lot of information that we need. And thank y'all all too. I know that y'all do a very hard job trying to get a budget together and look at the things that you would love to have and those that you need to have. And it's not easy, is it? You know that you're limited, that we're limited, but I appreciate you putting out there what you'd like to see. We'd like to give you everything. So we'll do our best. Anybody else have any questions? Okay, I think we have one thing we need to go into closed session.
Just administrative contracts.
Yeah. Y'all need to go into closed session. Those are my comments. Do you have anything else you want to get? Then if we don't need to go into closed session, I don't have that. Okay, consider take possible action on the proposed administrative.
It would be the same proposal we had last week, other than the resignation. That's clear.
If y'all don't have any questions, we can just take a motion on it.
Madam President, I move to approve extending administrator contracts as recommended by the superintendent.
Okay, I have a motion by Carl and a second by Henry to approve the extended administrative contracts. All in favor, raise your right hand. So we need one more motion.
So I don't have to call you later and bring administrator in here, your contract is done.